Picture this. Drake, one of the most successful rappers of the past decade, is standing on the edge of a cliff, and everyone's watching to see if he jumps or gets pushed. His carefully built empire is crumbling piece by piece, and the timing couldn't be worse. Just a few months ago, Drake was positioning himself for another run at dominance. Instead, what we've seen is a series of embarrassments, a disastrous rollout for his Iceman series, an album stuck in limbo, and now, the biggest blow of all, Young Thug himself publicly humiliating him. In a leaked phone call, Young Thug didn't just shade Drake. He cut right through the glossy image, calling him stupid. One word said casually, but it sent shockwaves through hip-hop. Because when someone like Young Thug, a man Drake has leaned on for years for credibility, energy, and connection, suddenly flips, it tells us something bigger. This isn't just another diss. This feels like the beginning of the end. And the real question we have to ask is this. Why did Young Thug expose Drake now? What happened behind the scenes that pushed one of his closest allies to tear down his image in front of the entire world? What you're about to hear isn't just about music. It's about power, trust, betrayal, and why Drake's career might be collapsing faster than anyone expected. Do well to subscribe to this channel and like this video. I would really appreciate it. The truth is, Drake isn't just dealing with one bad headline. He's trapped in a spiral. The Iceman rollout, especially episode 3, was supposed to be a flex. A reminder that even when Kendrick, Metro, and half the industry lined up against him, Drake could still control the narrative. But instead of dominance, what did we see? Confusion, embarrassment, and an audience that's tired of excuses. Fans were left asking, where's the music? What's the point of all this buildup? And when anticipation turns into frustration, that's when careers get dangerous. Because hype is fragile. Once people stop caring, it's nearly impossible to bring them back. Even his most loyal supporters, the ones who defended every weird bar, every awkward rollout, are starting to admit that Drake looks lost. What makes this collapse different is the silence around him. Think about it. Drake has always had a safety net. When things got rough, he could lean on collaborations, sneak diss his way into attention, or drop a chart-friendly single to reset the conversation. But this time, nothing's working. The industry isn't rallying around him. The fans aren't demanding the album. And now, with Young Thug flipping on him, the energy feels final. Drake has built a career on being untouchable. But right now, he's cornered. Every move looks desperate, every silence feels louder. And instead of controlling the narrative, he's become the narrative. The man who used to dictate culture is now the one being dictated to. And that shift, that's the scariest part of his downfall. Let's get to the moment that lit the internet on fire. A leaked phone call, raw, unfiltered, and devastating. On the other end, Young Thug, a man currently fighting for his freedom in court, a man who doesn't have the luxury of wasting words. And in that call, he didn't hold back. He called Drake stupid. At first glance, that might sound simple. But in hip-hop, words carry weight. Stupid wasn't just an insult, it was a statement. A dismissal. A declaration that Drake, the so-called strategist who prides himself on always being 2 steps ahead, had finally exposed himself as clueless. And here's the thing, this wasn't Joe Budden clowning him on a podcast. This wasn't a fan meme going viral. This was Young Thug, someone Drake has collaborated with, someone who has been a bridge between him and the streets, someone whose cosign mattered. When Thug uses that word, it lands different. It stings because it feels honest. Almost casual. Like he wasn't trying to diss Drake, he was just stating what everyone else in the industry has started whispering. Drake has lost the plot. Think about the power shift here. For years, Drake leaned on Thug's energy, Thug's originality, to keep himself looking fresh. But now, that same voice is undermining him, and the whole world got to hear it. In that one word, stupid, Young Thug didn't just embarrass Drake. He stripped him of his aura. He took away the mystique. And suddenly, the Emperor doesn't look like he's wearing clothes anymore. Because if Young Thug, the guy Drake needed on his side, is willing to clown him publicly, who's left that's really loyal? To really understand why Young Thug's words cut so deep, you have to connect the dots, and the biggest dot here is Metro Boomin. For years, Metro has been one of the most influential producers in hip-hop. His sound doesn't just dominate playlists, it defines eras. And Drake knew this, which is why he tried to keep Metro close, until he didn't. The tension between Drake and Metro has been bubbling for a while. Drake and 21 Savage were running wild, pushing their brand of toxic, meme-ready rap. Meanwhile, Metro was locked in on Heroes and Villains, a project that carried way more depth, way more impact. Fans and critics both noticed. Metro's music felt bigger, while Drake's felt cheaper. Instead of showing respect, Drake tried to compete. Instead of showing gratitude, he tried to overshadow. And in this industry, when you play that game with a producer like Metro, you're picking the wrong fight. Now here's where Young Thug comes in. Thug and Metro go back years. They've built classics together. They've shared history that Drake simply doesn't have. So when Thug had to choose between the two, he made it crystal clear. He didn't side with Drake, the chart chaser. He sided with Metro, the culture builder. That leaked call wasn't just about Drake being stupid. It was about loyalty. It was about lines being drawn in the sand. Metro stood by Thug during his darkest moments, while Drake, he kept moving like business as usual. And that's what makes this betrayal so dangerous for Drake. Because Metro isn't just any producer. He's the guy future legends want to work with. He's the heartbeat of the next generation. And if Thug is showing public love to Metro while mocking Drake, what message does that send to the rest of the industry? It tells everyone, Drake is replaceable. His cosign isn't the most valuable anymore. Metro's is. And once that shift happens, you can't buy it back with a couple of Billboard hits. Young Thug didn't just call Drake stupid over music or business. He brought up something personal, something that cut past the charts, past the egos, and straight into the kind of man Drake really is. In that leaked call, Thug referenced Metro Boomin losing his mother, a devastating tragedy that shook the producer's life. And what did Drake do in that moment? According to Thug, nothing. No compassion. No real support. Just business as usual. That's what made Thug snap. Because in hip-hop, loyalty isn't just about features and studio sessions. It's about being there when life hits hardest. Metro stood by Thug even while he sat behind bars. Metro poured himself into keeping the culture alive while his personal world was falling apart. And what did Drake do? Kept it moving like none of it mattered. To Thug, that wasn't just careless. It was inhuman. And in a culture built on respect, on brotherhood, on surviving together, that kind of coldness is unforgivable. Think about how that looks to everyone watching. Kendrick calls Drake a fake. Joe Budden calls him out for being shallow. And now, Young Thug is basically confirming it. Drake has no empathy. This moment is so powerful because it exposes the one thing Drake has tried to hide his whole career. He can buy the cars, stack the plaques, flood the timeline with flexes. But what happens when people realize there's nothing underneath? No heart, no soul, no loyalty? That's what Thug revealed. That's why his words hit harder than any diss track. Because it wasn't rap beef, it was human truth. And once the industry sees you as cold, untrustworthy, and self-centered, it's not just your career at risk. It's your legacy. The industry runs on alliances. Behind every hit single, every stadium tour, there's a network of relationships, favors traded, trust built, loyalties tested. And right now, Drake's network is cracking apart in real time. Let's start with Metro Boomin. After Young Thug's call, Metro's status has never looked stronger. He's already the go-to architect for the next wave of stars. And now he's also the producer who stood by Thug during his darkest days. That kind of loyalty is priceless. It means artists see him as more than just a beatmaker. He's family. Compare that to Drake, who looks more like an opportunist, always present when it benefits him and absent when it doesn't. Remember, Future and Metro are locked in like brothers. If Thug and Metro are united, it's only natural Future's energy drifts away from Drake. Their chemistry on What a Time to Be Alive once felt unstoppable, but now, those moments feel like the past. And let's not forget Travis Scott. He's another one with deep ties to Metro and Thug. Travis is already fighting to keep his own cultural relevance alive, but the last thing he's going to do is stand next to Drake while the ship sinks. Travis knows that siding with Metro keeps him tapped into the heartbeat of the streets. The domino effect is real. Once a few big names distance themselves, the rest of the industry follows. Nobody wants to be caught backing the guy who's losing influence. Drake has always been a magnet for features and collabs, but now, those doors are starting to close. Quietly, subtly, but they're closing. And the worst part for Drake is that he can't replace these relationships. You can't buy real respect. You can't fake genuine loyalty. And once it's gone, there's no studio session or streaming bundle that can get it back. So the question becomes, if Metro, Thug, Future, Travis, and others stop standing beside him, who's really left in Drake's corner? Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Drake's mysterious White Man album. This project was supposed to be the reset, the comeback moment, the release that reminded everyone why he's still the biggest name in the game. Instead, it's become a ghost, an album that's whispered about, delayed, and quietly turning into the biggest embarrassment of his career. Every rollout Drake's attempted lately has backfired. The Iceman series was meant to build anticipation, but by episode 3 the vibe was gone. Fans weren't hyped, they were annoyed. The energy shifted. And when anticipation turns into fatigue, you've already lost. Insiders have started joking that if Drake dropped White Man right now, it wouldn't go platinum, it would go triple wood. That's not just internet trolling, that's a reflection of the market. The streams wouldn't carry it, the public isn't hungry for it, and the cultural momentum simply isn't there. And Drake knows it. That's why he's stalling. That's why the album keeps getting pushed back. Because deep down he understands, releasing it now could be career suicide. Once it's out, there's no hiding behind mystery, no dragging out the conversation. The numbers will speak. The reactions will spread. And if it flops, it seals the narrative that Drake has already peaked. What makes this even worse is the symbolism. Drake has always prided himself on controlling the game, on being the guy who decides when culture shifts. But right now, he can't even decide when to drop his own project. He's frozen. And the longer he waits, the weaker he looks. Because the truth is, no matter how much hype he tries to manufacture, the White Man album is already doomed. Not because of what's on it, but because the world has moved on without him. If Drake thought he could buy time by delaying White Man, he miscalculated. Because the longer he waits, the worse the competition gets. The release calendar for the next few months isn't just crowded, it's deadly. First up, Cardi B. Her sophomore album is finally on the way, and the streets are waiting. Love her or hate her, Cardi knows how to create moments. She doesn't just drop music, she drops cultural events. Every rollout comes with viral clips, quotable bars, and headlines that dominate timelines. If Drake tries to slide his project in around Cardi, forget about it. The noise will swallow him whole. Then there's Doja Cat. She's one of the few mainstream artists who's cracked the formula of mixing pop stardom with rap credibility. Every record she drops comes with bold visuals, risky themes, and a fanbase that eats it all up. Doja is unpredictable, and that unpredictability makes her dangerous. She'll have all eyes on her, which means fewer eyes on Drake. And looming above them all? Taylor Swift. October is her battlefield, and let's be honest, no rapper on the planet wants to release when Taylor drops. Her fanbase isn't just massive, it's obsessive. They'll stream an album into history, whether the critics like it or not. And when Taylor moves, the entire industry adjusts its calendar around her. So imagine this scenario. Drake finally releases White Man after all the stalling, only for the charts to be dominated by Cardi, Doja, and Taylor. Suddenly, the biggest rapper in the world looks like a supporting act. That's why people are calling this the nail in the coffin. Because no matter what Drake does, the timing is working against him. He can't afford to compete, but he can't afford to keep waiting either. And for a man who built his reputation on always being the most calculated player in the room, watching him boxed out like this, that's the ultimate humiliation. All roads lead here. After the failed rollouts, the public humiliation, the industry turning its back, and the endless stalling of White Man, we're left staring at a truth Drake never wanted us to see. He's trapped, and there's no clean way out. Think about the rollout strategy. The Iceman series was supposed to be Drake's answer to Kendrick's dominance, a way to show he still had the creativity, the strategy, the cultural grip. Instead, it exposed how thin the act had become. Every new episode looked like more filler, more stalling. The big reveal? There wasn't one. Then came the album delays. First a tease, then another tease, then silence. What was supposed to be the most important release of his career has turned into a ghost story. He's stretched the rubber band so far that when it finally snaps, the impact will barely be felt. Worse still, there's the growing possibility that Iceman and White Man may never even see the light of day. If Drake knows they're doomed to flop, what's the incentive to release them at all? Sometimes, in this industry, artists quietly bury projects to save face. And if that's the path Drake takes, it would be the loudest admission of defeat he's ever made. Because for over a decade, Drake built his reputation on consistency. He was the guy who always had another hit, another feature, another anthem for the summer. He made himself unavoidable. But now he's stuck in silence, and the silence is deafening. The empire he built on momentum is collapsing under its own weight. And if this really is the final chapter of Drake's dominance, it won't end with a bang. It'll end with a whimper. A superstar frozen in place, watching as the culture moves forward without him. We've watched Drake stumble from the heights of untouchable dominance into a spiral of delays, flops, and desperate plays. The Iceman rollout fell flat. White Man became a ghost album. The empire he built on momentum now stands still, frozen, cracks spreading through every corner. But here's the twist. The story isn't finished. The music industry thrives on reinvention. Some artists fade quietly into irrelevance, while others claw their way back against impossible odds. The question is, which version of Drake will we see? Will he finally release White Man, risking everything on one last shot at redemption? Or will he keep hiding behind leaks, distractions, and industry smoke screens, hoping the culture forgets his failures? And if the album never drops, will that silence be the most powerful statement of all? The ultimate admission that his time has passed? Right now, Drake stands at a crossroads. One path leads to a chance at rewriting the narrative, even if the odds are stacked against him. The other leads to the quiet collapse of one of the biggest runs in modern music history. Either way, one thing is certain: the world is watching. Every delay, every rumor, every move he makes from here will be judged not by the hype machine he once controlled, but by a culture that's already chosen its new leaders. And when the dust settles, we'll all look back at this moment, not as the height of Drake's career, but as the beginning of the end. Thanks for watching. Remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel. And as always, stay active.